there was a dead artist that we thought could sell 20,000 copies, we might be actually inclined to give that to IND, because that would really, there's no career development involved in it.
Right.
Dead. But it would give them a good selling record, and we want to have a good, healthy business relationship with them too. And we don't ever, they know that they're getting second choice albums, but if they felt they were getting third choice, and that the first and second were going the other way, it wouldn't be as good a relationship as, we want them to we want all the records to sell well. We want a Mark Wilson record to sell well, but it's probably not going to in most cases.
Right.
If we can give some decent selling records to IND, then we can still get distribution for the Mark Wilson ones. But if all the better selling records went to Universal, then they'd probably drop us at some point.
Okay.
We don't want all this stuff that sells less than 1,000.
How do you react? Now, Mark Wilson said to me, now this is back a few years now, when I did my initial round of interviews, probably with you as well as with, I did Mark at the same time, I guess. So, out of fairness to both of you, this is a few years old, and he might think differently now. But at that time, when I spoke with him about his records being put out by what you called Rounder Select, he kind of sarcastically said, "I think that means selected for oblivion." What's your reaction to that? Is it, is that a fair statement? I gather you can tell me it's not, but then again, I don't know what he thinks now. But
well, I can understand somebody making that argument. And it was a worry that we had that it would come across that way too much.
Okay.
But on the other hand, there's probably some truth in there.
Okay.
Too, in that it was largely was a sales-oriented decision that was being made there.
Right. Well, one thing that occurred to me, and I simply don't know if it's true or not, but if it's true, it might be, I don't want to feed you stuff. Well, I guess it's going to come the way. I'm wondering, are there some records that just aren't going to work in national distribution? Or does it not matter? Is everything better off if it can get national distribution?
Well, there's not much alternative these days.
Okay.
So it's sort of, there isn't any... there probably are someplace, some regional distributors that only sell in their region, but I don't know them anymore.
Okay, well then what happens to Rounder Select product? What happens to a Mark Wilson product? Why don't we trace that story? There are still, especially with the Heritage series, you have put out some of that stuff. I think Dirk Powell's latest record came out as Rounder Select. What do you do with that stuff?
Well, that goes through a network. Even the stuff at Universal, we sell through a network of specialized distributors.
Okay.
So that an Alison Krauss record, we're still selling it direct to Record Depot. And we'll still sell it to, if there was a women's music distribution company that wanted to carry Alison Krauss just because of her gender.
Right.
I don't think there is, but
yeah.
There are a list of about 35 or 40 specialized distributors that we've, mutually agreed. They said, well, these people want to carry this stuff, that's okay with us.
Universal said that?
Universal said that. It's in an amendment to our deal.
Okay, so would it go simultaneously through them and these, okay.
Yeah, but they wouldn't even notice it.
I see.
One of the things that they think about.
Got it, okay.
They say, well, we won't even know that's happening because it's too small.
Okay.
Same thing with IND, which is IND/Bayside, because those are the two bigger distributors on the other side. We still sell to smaller distributors there as well. So if a Mark Wilson album comes out, Universal won't know about it, but IND and Bayside both will, as will Record Depot and some of these smaller Street Side up in Michigan, and some of these smaller distributor companies.
Okay, but these are all, you said there's no such thing as regional distribution. All these companies
Well, there might be. I don't, we don't have any. Some of these companies may largely be selling regionally.
What's the difference between an IND and a Universal?
Well, basically the size, I guess.
Okay. Just the network of retail that they put it in, is that really? Is that an accurate way to say it?
They would each be selling to the same accounts.
Okay.
So you will have at a store like a chain, let's say like Borders, they'll have somebody selling them Rounder records and somebody selling them Rounder Select records.
Okay.
People from two different distribution companies.
Okay. So, okay, so you give a...
They have different barcodes, of course, and the select name is meant to distribute it, to distinguish it.
Okay, so you take the Dirk Powell record. That goes through IND as a company?
Yes.
I thought you were using that as a euphemism for just indie, but it's a company, and Bayside, I know Bayside is still a company, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so you'd give it to these distributors, essentially, which are smaller.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. And has the percentage of Rounder Select changed since you first entered this agreement in the late 90s?
Really.
Okay.
I don't think it has.
Okay.
We wish it would. We wish it would grow a little bit.
Really?
Well, sure.
Why?
Well, because if we could sell 1,500 copies of a Mark Wilson album instead of 1,200, that would be good.
Oh, no, I guess I mean in terms of the number of records. Has Rounder Records, the larger entity, put, I'm not talking about sales figures, but I guess have you released fewer albums that are labeled Rounder Select in the last 6 years?
I don't know.
Okay.
That I don't know.
Okay.
It certainly wasn't true for the first couple years. When it's become true, I don't know.
Okay.
We certainly still, in Mark Wilson's case, we definitely keep putting out his records.
Right.
And essentially as fast as he can and wants to.
Right. Okay. Okay. How are you doing on time and your fortitude? Because I got a lot more I can talk about.
I'm wondering whether it's not like I have anything specific here, but there's things I do need to take care of at some point.
Okay.
I think let's just keep talking for a while.
Okay.
And maybe in half an hour.
Okay.
Let's figure we should stop, and that doesn't mean we can't do more later.
Yeah, I'd like to just pick up, but I think I'll need to. But okay, let's. This is, I had thought at one point I'd come out to Boston again. I'm actually trying to avoid that because this is, no matter how much this phone call costs, it's cheaper.
Oh, yeah.
And so.
I don't come to Austin anymore, it seems. So.
What's that?
And I don't come to Austin anymore, it seems.
Right. Do you still own the house? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know anybody that wants to rent it for a year or so?
I don't offhand, although, I mean, well, if you were serious, I mean, that's something.
People in there are moving out in sometime in September.
If you're serious about that and don't have a way to go, certainly there's always houses advertised on our department email. It just goes to American Studies, and it's done all the time, and I'd be happy to do that as long as
that'd be good. We have a real estate agent that's ready to, is going to try to place it, but if we placed it ourselves, that would be good.
Well, as long as I don't have to be your agent, and I'll give your contacts, you can think about that. And that it's done all the time. I saw one the other day. People are always trying to pass on property in the department, and you get graduate students, and they're usually reasonable, somewhat reasonable. They may party in your house at Christmas time. I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, okay. Let's. I'm trying to figure out where I'd most like to go next. If we might have to pick up. Why don't we... Do artists know or talk to you about it? Am I on Rounder? Am I on Rounder Select? How's my distribution going to go? Does anyone care?
Yeah, I think most people, if they had a choice, would want to be on Rounder.
Sure.
It's not necessarily it wouldn't necessarily be a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've been thinking so much about Rounder books that I don't pay nearly as much attention to Rounder records anymore as I used to.
Right.
So if you tell me that the last Dirk Powell record was on Rounder Select, that would be you telling me that.
I understand.
I wouldn't be able to tell you that.
Okay.
That seems logical to me.
Okay.
Because his records aren't selling in the 6,000 to 7,000 range.
Right. Okay.
There would have been a discussion. There almost certainly was a discussion about which way to go on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And the nature of the discussion, if it's on Rounder Select, which I would kind of assume.
Right.
The nature of the discussion there would have been that he was a borderline case, but the sales on the previous records have been well under the threshold, and that maybe his one of those examples of a better selling record for IND.
Right.
Where they have a chance that they actually could build up an artist and try to realize the potential, as opposed to it being, an album of, calypsos recorded in the 30s or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to take this artist and really try to build him up and work with him, they maybe could sell ownuff copies that they'd be very happy.
Now, is IND solely a distributor? You don't have an ownership interest in them, or okay?
Who owns it? But
Okay, so they're a distributor. Bayside is a distributor still.
yeah,
Okay, and there's some others that you distribute through.
the smaller, niche-oriented ones,
Okay, got it. All right.
distributors and so forth.
Okay, and I gather you're not intensely involved in the day-to-day decision-making on that stuff nowadays.
On the book side.
Okay, just on the book side. Okay.
Everything on the book side.
Okay, why don't we step back then to the collective days. I talked to you said you had 3 people who made it on the records as a member of the collective. Bill Cornrich, Bruce Kaplan, and I think Skip Ferguson was the other.
Right.
Well, I know very little about him. How long was he around?
So do I.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe a year or two.
Okay. How did I know how Kaplan left? How did Cornrich come to depart? As in terms of your memory?
I went overseas to do some research for my dissertation in 1974 for about 3 months.
Yeah.
And he filled in.
Yeah.
That whole time very actively.
Right. He told me he was there 74 to 76, roughly. Summers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then stayed on after. But it got to the point where he was working too hard.
Uh-huh.
And he basically got burnt out.
Okay.
Doing it. I think he actually felt he was getting an ulcer. Turned out he actually picked up a parasite on a trip, but he didn't know that at the time he made his decision to leave. He thought he was getting an ulcer.
Okay.
So it was actually a physical thing that, a totally unrelated thing. But he basically got burned out. He was just very, very intense and working too hard, and just decided he wanted to take off, and he actually just hopped in a VW van and drove to Mexico and ended up in British Honduras.
Now he
dropped out.
He told me a story centered around Danny Wilson in distribution. Do you remember that? I assume you remember the guy.
Oh, I remember Danny. Danny and I went down and visited Bill in British Honduras at one point there.
Okay, getting very. And he said that he was upset.
I have an incoming call. Can you hold on?
Yeah, sure can.
Maybe turn off the tape and I'll be back on.
Okay.
I've forgotten that. I was just reminding Emmett how we once went to Colin's
Birthday party.
Birthday party at a swimming pool.
That's right.
We had their binders and so.
That's right.
He remembered that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't remember that the birthdays were that close to each other.
Yeah. Okay. Cornrich seems to feel that he left Rounder over upset stemming from the treatment of Danny Wilson. Does that make? I'll tell you the story, but does that make any sense to you at all?
No. Well, that wouldn't. I wouldn't say it that way. Is that I hadn't never heard that before.
Okay.
Is the way my reaction would be, and it's kind of unusual.
All right. You want me to tell you what he said?
Sure.
I'm sure you do. I'll tell you exactly what he told me. He spent a far longer on this than I could ever write about, but it was just clearly a vivid memory. As he described it to me, and I learned all this from the first time from this conversation. Danny Wilson was essentially running a mail order business.
Running Roundup, the mail order company.
Roundup, the mail order company. Cornrich's take was that this was, in essence, Danny Wilson's deal. It was a company that he was running, and he was essentially buying your records as well as other records and selling as if he were a record store owner, which is what mail orders are, but that it was his store. Roundup Distribution was Danny Wilson's store, and he started selling a lot of material as Rounder itself started to enjoy an upsurge in gross revenues in the mid-'70s. And he was not a member of the collective, and he didn't want to live there, and he'd come down and work in the basement and do his selling. And as the volume of business done by Roundup Distributing was increasing, Marion and Ken, and he isolated you here, Marion and Ken wanted it. They didn't want Danny Wilson to be essentially the owner of Roundup Distributing, and he does not claim that there were any contracts or what have you. This is just the way things evolved. Nobody had any contracts, as you've described.
Can you hold on just a minute?
Yeah, sure can. So basically,
that wasn't true, though.
Okay, let me finish his story so you can respond to all of it. He said that essentially Danny Wilson started making a sufficient amount of money as the proprietor of the mail order distribution company, carrying Rounder labels as well as perhaps other labels. I assume that was the case. That's what I think he told me. That the collective, with Bill putting the emphasis on Marion and Ken initially, said this is something we should own. And essentially the talk is, his conclusion was that he kind of talked to you about it. He wanted Danny to be able to stay. He thought that was right. Danny was doing this. It was his thing. And it was going to, he had hoped at least to get a 2-2 vote. And Marion and Ken were, adamant that you guys had to take this over, and you ultimately sided with them, and Danny was pissed off, but he was thrown out, essentially. I mean, that's Bill's take. Danny was thrown out, and Bill said, he said he was very stressed. He said this ate him up, and it was really tense, and he was at odds with Marion and Ken, and trying to...
Some of that may have happened while I was away.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, what's your... And he said he ended up leaving with people telling him, disgusted over this situation, kind of burned out over the idea that, I don't know, some idealism or romance was lost, and that was reflected in what had happened here, that it was kind of a takeover. And people were telling him when he left that he should get something, and he just wanted to get away, and he said he ended up getting a truck or a van as kind of a buyout on his departure. I guess that's a different story from the Danny Wilson story, but he tied them all together. He was just very...
Well, it'd be a good question to ask Ken and Marion about.
Okay.
I don't have distinct memories of that.
Okay.
I know that Bill left at one point, but it was his... I know he didn't get a truck or a van. He did take a VW van, but it was his. He went and became a school teacher up in New Hampshire or something.
Yeah.
And then after a year or so of that, he decided to drive to Central America, and Danny and I flew down and visited him after he'd been there for about a year. I mean, we remained on friendly terms.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the way you're phrasing it, it may have been Ken and Marion that he had the problems with more than me.
Bill had problems with Ken and Marion, and he phrased it, and this is my word, not his, as more like disappointment with you. He said eventually you just sort of...
Yeah, if under that scenario, if I just decided I wasn't going to stick up for what was right but join my two partners...
That's how he described it. And he just had to leave, he said. He just couldn't...
Yeah. But, I mean, Danny, he was Mark Wilson's younger brother.
Right,
And he was never listed as part of the collective.
No, and Bill says that, yeah.
It was Mark asked us if we could find something for him to do. And so what we ended up doing is having him help with the mail order stuff. But it was, the mail order company was our company.
Okay.
I mean, we started it when we had 2 records we started in distribution company, and Mark actually ran the mail order company from his apartment in Cambridge when he was a graduate student at Harvard.
Okay.
And Ken, Marion, and myself were on the road. we had the mail for. It's kind of funny. We had the mail forwarded to Mark's apartment. Because we spent a couple of summers. We were on the road the entire summer in our white VW van, and we would call in to Mark, and he would tell. We had the records with us,
right?
But the mail was coming to him.
Right.
There wasn't a very big volume that we're talking about here, so this is why this was feasible to do. But it's very amusing. We would call up Mark, and he would say, "Okay, I got these 2 orders, or these 4 orders. There probably were never more than 4 at a time." And then he would read the address to us over the telephone. Somebody wanted 1 copy of George Pegram, and sent a check in or whatever. And then we would be on the road. We would go visit a local radio station and ask for a copy for their used mailers, the cardboard boxes
right.
that these had arrived in. We would take the mailer, then we would go to the back of our van, pull out the George Pegram record that this mail order customer wanted, and we'd go to the local post office and mail it to them.
Okay.
So the shipping depot for the mail order company was on the road.
Okay.
and the supplies we used were leftover recycled mailers. It was kind of a funny way to run a mail order business. There was no central place to it, but it grew over time, and to the point that it became something that Danny was doing full time. At one point, I remember he moved. I don't remember why. It may have been a personality thing, and that may have happened when I was away. But he moved out of. He stopped operating. He got a separate location.
Danny.
He started running it out of his apartment, which oddly enough was on Camp Street before we moved there.
Right.
It was at 30 Camp Street. I can still remember that. And he had an apartment, like a triplex house there. It was just total coincidence that we ended up moving into 1 Camp Street sometime later, after he'd already left town.
Right.
But he was running it out of there, and I don't remember any agreement that suddenly it became his company instead of ours.
Right. Okay. That's certainly Bill's perspective.
Yeah.
That it was
like.
Danny's company, Danny's mail order company.
Give him the company.
Pardon me?
That we would just give him the company.
I don't know that he talked. He didn't speak to me about its origin. I mean, but he just said at the time he came, which was '74. Danny was the mail order company.
Yeah. Well, it may be that at that point he was
doing all
pretty autonomous.
Yeah.
But it was never a point that we just gave him the company. He was running it, certainly.
Okay.
I remember going over there a few times and so forth. I don't remember a flow, and it was. I don't remember a flow of. I don't remember too much about it, actually.
Okay.
I don't remember him coming to us with checks and saying, "Well, here's the money from Roundup," and I don't remember being involved in as I do earlier on, involved in the design of the publication.
Right.
Something, but I mean, there was a lot of dialogue back and forth. Mark Wilson actually would be a good person to ask about this, probably.
Right.
Because he certainly knew what his brother was doing.
I tried to ask his brother. He didn't answer me. At least not yet. I have to try.
Oh, you mean you just haven't heard back from him?
No. He clearly didn't choose to.
Oh, he didn't want to talk about it.
Well, he didn't say that. I didn't hear back from him, but it was. I sent a couple of emails, and it was a long time ago, and he's choosing not to answer them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I saw Danny and Mark both a few years ago.
Mark speaks to me. Danny just ignored
that's what
it.
I was saying. You should maybe ask. You could tell him. Ask Mark.
Right.
Hey, I tried to reach Danny. Do you think it's just that he doesn't want to talk about it?
Right.
I know whenever he left, he was unhappy, and would have, in my memory, it would be that there was something about the autonomous setup that wasn't working anymore, and we decided that we wanted to take it back over again. But I don't think that means, and I don't know why, whether we thought he was messing up or whether.
Was Danny unhappy about leaving, and was he?
I think he was.
Okay, because he was told to leave, in essence.
Could be, or maybe he just got too frustrated.
Okay, so he was unhappy for some reason.
And quit.
Okay.
Left. That's kind of more of my memory.
Okay.
And I don't know whether it was because he thought we were meddling too much, or reasserting a control that we had not done. It's easy to imagine, given that we didn't even file taxes for the first 4 years,
right,
and that there were a number of things that were a little vague about how we operated. It is easy to imagine how he could have come into a situation, started doing it, and taken some form of ownership in his mind anyhow. I mean,
Right.
certainly there was never any conveyance on paper, like a contract or anything like that. But
Right.
in those days in particular, it's easy to think, well, geez, I'm the one doing something, so it must be my company or something.
Right.
I don't remember having informal conversations like, oh, well, this is your company, of course, we're just not interested anymore.
Right.
I don't remember that. He may have remembered something like that.
Okay. Well, this lives very much in Bill's mind as I characterize it. I know you saw him at least a few years ago. Maybe you could talk. I don't know.
We're in touch on email.
Okay.
Often, too.
Okay.
And our third roommate is coming. I'm having breakfast with him tomorrow morning.
That is who?
Bob Greenberg. Bill and I first met. Well,
oh, I see. Right.
We first really didn't know each other when the three of us were roommates out at the University of Chicago.
Right. Okay.
Bob Greenberg's coming over. We're meeting somewhere for breakfast tomorrow morning.
Okay. I think there's a feeling of on Bill's part also that the collective was just. Basically, you, Marion, and Ken were just too powerful. There was a role in which he said Ken and Marion would always vote together, and ultimately you would be pulled toward them, so that it was a collective of three. That unless you got four more, it was never going to be anything other than your.
It didn't work when they wanted to move the whole company to East Tennessee, though.
Okay.
Even though Ken and Marion both really wanted to do that.
I see.
I dug in my heels on that one, and somehow my one vote.
Okay.
Ruled there too.
That's a big East Tennessee, Jesus. Would they wanted to live down there?
Yeah, and near Danny Bailey and Charlie Bailey.
Okay.
It was a romantic notion about moving to the country and
okay.
being in the heart of bluegrass and all that.
Okay. Do you want to talk about unionization, or do you want to pick that up?
Well, let's talk a little bit more about this other thing.
Okay.
Too much, but I'd be curious to know more about it. I can't categorically say, there was just too much stuff that was vague and that we didn't even think through.
Right. I think, and Bill certainly conceded that. He said nobody had contracts. There was nothing like that existed. He was there. He said to me, he came summer of '74, and he did peg it to your absence. He told me he was pretty clear that he stayed pretty much exactly 2 years, leaving summer of '76 or a little later, but just by a matter of a couple of months. He said it was before Thorogood happened, but it was in the talking stage, and he so. But on this story, which was just one story of the whole thing, he was very clear that in his mind, 25 years on or later, he left over. I guess the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back was this betrayal of a friend, and I have that in quotes. I'm looking now. I've clicked to my notes of my interview with Bill, and I put betrayal of a friend in quotes. I don't do verbatim quotations.
Well, it'd be good for you to talk to Ken Marion and Mark Wilson.
Right. Okay.
If you can get to him, but
yeah,
that would be certainly worth pursuing. The one thing that you reminded me of what it was I wanted to get back to.
Right.
It is definitely the case, and we had Bruce Kaplan, we had Skip Ferguson, we had Bill Cornrich. Our initial conception was that the collective would grow.
Right.
And become five. It was five at one point because both Skip and Bruce were at one time together.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time Bill Cornrich came, Bruce and Skip were gone. But we thought there would be 8, 10 people,
Right.
I don't know what we thought, but it was meant to be a growing thing. But it never worked because there truly was a dynamic between the three of us.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That ultimately excluded other people.
Sure.
Not necessarily out of ill will.
I understand.
The Bruce Kaplan thing, really, we worked at it, but he was living in Chicago, and the three of us were living in the same apartment.
Well, I understand. There's a lot of history.
But it's just history is one thing, but it's just a dynamic.
Yeah.
The three of us were talking round the clock.
Right.
And so naturally we were tighter than somebody that would just call in even once a day.
Right.
From Chicago, who had great ideas and was really doing some good stuff, and even bringing some independent financing to some of the projects where he raised some of the money for it, but we were just this more tight-knit group.
Right.
And then with the other people that would come and go there, would have been a hard thing to penetrate. Really, now, Bill was friendly with all of us, although that probably shifted from time to time.
Yeah.
But certainly when I was away, he was part of the group that wanted to move to East Tennessee too.
Right. Which he did. Yeah. Well, he did that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
When I was away, there was a time that it was almost like the whole company. I could have been on the one. I could have been the Danny Wilson in the story you just told there.
Right. No, he described being friends with Ken and Marion. He said ultimately, though, they were just. I think there was a chemistry between him and the two of them that at least in his mind, was never going to gel well. He certainly felt differently about you, but you had an independent history with him, and
right.
and he described to me Ken picking at his face and said he just Ken's nervous habits. He said they just drove me crazy.
Well,
it was
drive me crazy sometimes too.
Okay. But that's, I'll tell you more, although I don't know too much more. The bottom line was, his view is Danny Wilson owned the company. I said, why couldn't Danny Wilson, if he owned the company, have just picked up and left? How could he possibly be forced out, Bill?
There's a little logic.
Well, he said to me, well, there would have been a fight, but he said he was getting most of his product from Rounder, and they could have stopped selling to him, and suddenly he didn't have a store anymore, a mail order store anymore, because his product source would disappear, and then there'd probably be some fight over the name, Rounder, Roundup, blah, blah, blah. I don't know where he got this. Clearly, his perception is Danny Wilson owned Roundup mail order distribution. You had the power because you were the product supplier to push him out if you wanted to, and ultimately you did, and that's what it was. It was a coup d'etat of the mail order company with Danny Wilson out the door, with Bill thinking it was a betrayal, with Bill lobbying you, and at times he thought reaching you. But ultimately not, and that's
some of that sounds familiar to me.
Okay.
When you talk about the product coming from us and so forth, there's just some resonance there.
Yeah, that's.
I can't really put my finger on, and I think I can't. I can't say that. Well, Bill's all washed up. That's absolutely absurd. How ridiculous.
Okay.
There's something there.
Okay.
And if you talk to the other people, you might get a better.
Okay, I'll do that.
Better.
These are certainly areas where I wanted to get everybody's take on what happened. That's Bill. It's very vibrant to Bill Cornrich.
Yeah.
The other thing that's very vibrant to Bill Cornrich, as I'm looking at it, he's very clear. He said that when he decided that he had to leave Rounder, there was a lot of talk that he that you wouldn't not necessarily have been privy to, but people were saying, well, you've been there 2 years. It's a collective. You own something. You can't just walk away and leave. But he was, he doesn't style. You on it? You there? All right.
What? No. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, he said that he couldn't see.
Oh, I can understand that.
He couldn't see from his own standpoint and how he felt then, and just what he was. He wasn't going to sue Rounder, but he's listening to these people and he's thinking, well, there's probably something true about it. And he said he ended up with He said that you guys, Rounder bought him a new pickup truck. That's what he told me.
Okay. Maybe we did.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't remember that either, but.
Okay. All right.
Everything was very fuzzy, and not just in my memory at the time.
Right.
We were just making this up as we went.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we weren't operating by standard business models.
Right, and
it was, we would have, I could imagine a conversation.
Right.
Geez, what do we do now? And trying to work out something, but definitely there weren't like shares and stock certificates.
Right, exactly.
Type of stuff.
I know I don't know, I'm listening to this story and I'm saying, what am I going to do about this? And I don't want to, because to contextualize any given story, you'd have to get 100,000 stories, because the thrust of what I've felt that the story says is, one thing the three of you had, as you put it, a dynamic that was particularly close, that worked by its nature to exclude other people, and
even if we didn't want it to.
Yeah, and two, that you were sort of, well, you remember a lady named Kathleen Keat?
Do I remember her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. She said to me in an email, I've never talked to her, but I've exchanged numerous emails with her, and she said, I mean, she's very hesitant to talk to me. She said, I think she was traumatized by Rounder for some reason. That's the impression I get. I don't know if that would be. But she said to me that she was present for your, and the way she wrote it, I don't have the email in front of me, transformation to, and then she put in parenthesis, or realization of their, close parenthesis, capitalism. So basically what I see as the dynamic in the Danny Wilson story is more of a part of the process by which you realize that no matter what you thought as idealistic 25-year-olds, you were a capitalist enterprise, and that had to march forward somehow if you were going to grow, if you were going to get bigger, if you were going to...
Well, I don't know that had anything to do with Danny Wilson.
Okay.
I don't really know what the issue was there.
Right, okay.
Why he was happily running this mail order company one day and then left at some other time.
Right,
I don't remember the issue.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if Ken didn't.
Did not, yeah.
Marion, I don't know. I think sometimes Marion rewrites history a little bit in her head, but I don't think Ken does.
Okay.
And I'm sure Mark Wilson would have the best recollection.
Right.
Of all, and I don't think he's... And I think his would be not colored by his happening to be Danny's brother.
Oh, I mean, he's certainly a good source. I mean, Danny would have the best,
I mean, I would think he would be on Danny's side, so to speak, if there even wasn't a side. There would have been back then, but
right.
It has anything to do with anything now. I mean, as I said, Danny and Mark and I all went out to dinner.
Right.
About 3 or 4 years ago, and had a nice time.
Now, Danny teaches, doesn't he? Computers?
I don't know what he does. I think so.
Yeah, okay.
We don't really have much. We did go to Central America together for about a month at one point, or 3 weeks, and visited Bill Cornridge, who was down there. And so somehow we were still friends.
Right.
He was still there at that time. And this thing would have happened after that, I guess.
Right.
It was over Christmas time.
Okay.
Literally over Christmas and New Year's, so probably just shut down the mail order company for a few weeks.
Right. But anyway, that's what I know of the Danny Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whatever the details of the story were, I think what it says is it's a relatively small incident overall, but important in the, I guess, in the sense of what we proclaimed our ideals to be, and then they didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the dynamic was just at the end. We have always felt like we were on a snowball that was sort of out of control a little bit.
Right.
Momentum that carried us along.
Yeah.
That just pushed us and pulled us in ways that we didn't expect.
Yeah.
One of which is probably becoming a more capitalistic enterprise, if you wanted to pick up on what Kathy Keats said.
Right.
I mean, one thing we definitely learned is that working within the system, we ended up being shaped to the system in some ways. It just wasn't feasible, or, and I know, at least in terms of myself, I might have been intellectually opposed to the capitalist system at some point. I still would be at some level, but there may have been something more instinctive in me, and I would tend to see it maybe more in me than either of the other two of them, that was kind of business-oriented and, wanting at some level to work within the system and prosper or whatever.
Right, okay.
I mean, I see I probably was born with it.
Sure.
I mean, socially.
Right.
Not genetically, but...
Well, I understand.
And I think that's probably sort of more imbued in me than either of the two of them.
Yeah.
Because I've always kind of been the one that pushed more in that area, business area.
Well, and that's
which is a good thing from some perspectives, and
Well, and that's a great segue to the union formation, if you want to go there.
Probably I don't.
Okay.
Right yet.
Okay.
Because we're getting closer to 12, and that could be a bigger thing.
Right. Okay.
I was But Kathy was there around the time of the beginning of the unionization. I don't know. You think she's hesitant to just want to take her time to get into this or something?
She seems. Right now, I'm out of touch with her.
It's not like she has any friends with anybody here. I think I heard from her about 4 or 5 years ago or something, just like a one-liner kind of thing.
Right now, I am out of touch with her. She kind of cut it off, but she was exchanging some emails with me. She said, "Well, I don't know if I want to talk. I don't want to know if I don't know if I want to do an email interview." And then she said, "Send me your questions." So I said, "My God, send me your questions. You worked there in the 70s." So I sent her this lengthy email, not of questions so much, but of areas that I'd like to explore, and
I don't think it's the long arm of Rounder that she's afraid of.
Oh, I think
she probably doesn't want to take the time to do it.
It may be, yeah. She said to me her first...
I don't know what she's doing, if she has kids or what.
She's a professor, and you think, for God's sakes, she should be...
on some level there.
She should be... No, she said she thought it was a great project and important, and then she...
Try it again.
Yeah, then she... what did she say to me? She also said, the other humorous remark, that was one humorous remark she wrote me about, I witnessed the transformation to, or perhaps realization of, their role in the capitalist system. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing she said was that Bill Cornrich thought he was a member of the collective, and that was a conscious choice of words, which I thought was amusing. Getting at what you were saying, which is that...
yeah, I mean, we thought he was too.
Exactly. I know. And I think her point was simply that was not, maybe only in retrospect and maybe for innocent reasons, was something that was not going to be able to happen for anybody because of the dynamic.
I think it would have been really hard for a fourth person.
Yeah.
Break in and stick, but he was closer than anybody.
Right.
To making that happen.
But anyway, I know we have talked a long time. That's where I'd want to go next, which is to talk about, and I was struck by, you probably saw the exchange between Ken and me in which he said, I don't think you have to talk about the union in light of what you're doing, but my feeling is I can't not talk about the union.
In light of what? Who's doing?
When he read whatever he read of the manuscript I sent him, I thought it was so much about the music and questions about authenticity and promotion and what have you. And he said, I don't know why you need to talk about it.
It's a very interesting side of it. And it connects to this stuff that we've just been talking about.
Absolutely, yeah.
If we can't manage to have a fourth or fifth member of the collective that's truly part of the collective,
right,
then it's not surprising that the same kind of distancing would happen with other people that work there that were not meant to be.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about the union a lot already, so I don't know how much of that ground you would want to go over again.
Well, some. I mean, what I want to do basically is I don't feel. I mean, obviously, the short description of Rounder Records ending up opposing the formation of a union and is one of hypocrisy. That's if you want a one-word or a one-liner by which someone could criticize your relationship with your union at the outset, that's the word that's going to be used, and it's been used by people who bandy it about. And I'm thinking that I wrote to Ken. I don't feel as hardcore about that as anybody, just because I think people, there's a totality of people's lives in an overall situation that I think is important. And so I want to get, your response to that, your considered statement about, how did it feel to be opposing a union, which I don't think I have,
Sure, well, we could talk about that. There are two things. Let's do it at another time. Though.
Okay.
And by another time, I don't mean like the distant future. I just mean like not today.
Okay.
Because I do have to go out and buy stuff to bake a cake with. And,
okay. Okay.
Let's go over to Rounder and pick up my mail.
Okay.
And mail out a couple of things to people. Two things, though, that I wanted to throw out there for you to put on the agenda to talk about. One thing is, did you know that there was just recently a campaign to abolish the union?
No, I didn't.
It's called the decertification election.
Okay, and okay.
It just happened last year or earlier this year, or last fall.
Okay.
Didn't quite make it, but it was a very close vote.
Okay.
There was a group of people within the union that said, listen, we've had this union for so long now, and what are we getting out of it? We're spending all this money.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I can tell, I'm not really getting anything out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I can't remember the vote, but I could look it up.
How many union members do you have now?
That would be reflected in what the vote was.
Exactly. I'm wondering, do you know the order of magnitude? Is it
40 maybe or something
okay?
like that. I don't know. I'll look it up as I'm telling you to see if if I can figure it out from here. I think I might have saved that. We just completed, I think last week, a new contract. It didn't get thrown out.
Right.
It did not get thrown out, but it was I think close enough that like 2 votes would have made a difference. It reflected a real split among the people as to questioning whether this was beneficial or not beneficial.
Okay.
In the end, for whatever reason, I didn't seem to save that information, but I'm gonna ask somebody to remind me what the vote was. And
Okay.
I'll do that by the next time we talk. We just last week got a note that we had done a new contract. I think the contract goes through the end of the year 2005. It's not a long-term contract, partly because there wasn't much. I think the union didn't want a long-term one because with inflation almost non-existent, there was hardly any basis on which to request a significant raise.
Right.
And I think the awareness of both sides that, hey, have to be 40+% of the people didn't even want a union in the first place, so it wasn't like they were able to present this solid united front of saying, didn't put them in the best bargaining position.
Right.
To have 40-some% of the people say they didn't even want the union in the first place. Not the first place, in the most recent place, because when it first came, I think it was a pretty sizable vote in favor of the union.
Back in the 70s.
Way back when it was brought in.
Yeah.
It's just deteriorated in the last several years. Some of the original firebrands left, and I think when they left, the oomph went out of the union or something. I think the people here are kind of sort of just going through the paces, and a couple people maybe were worried if they didn't have protection that they'd lose their job or something because they'd be identified as union ringleaders or whatever.
Right.
Whatever. It's become almost amusing in the last 7 or 8 years because nothing ever happens. It's as though the union doesn't exist, in the sense that, okay, well, we have these meetings every so often, but really they're just cooperative meetings about how can we get better accomplished. It's not like they're issues, sides that, square off against each other. And so I think that at some point there, a couple of people started saying, well, what's the point of this anyhow?
How many employees does the record company have now?
I don't know that either.
Okay.
I'll find that out too.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, 40